And we're back. I know it's been a long time. Maybe you've never even seen us or heard of us before, but we are Kraken One Open. Follow us at Kraken One Open on Twitter or Instagram. And make sure you're tuned in for the latest episodes because we're back at you. We haven't given you an episode since October. And you know what? We were in Miami. We had a great vacation, but we thought, man, I don't know if I'm ever going to drink again after that. And it's kind of hard to do a podcast called Kraken One Open, where we break it down into 3 different periods where we kind of drink along with our mistakes and our hockey misses and just talk about the Seattle Kraken and the NHL in general. With me, as always, my co-host, Jameson Edwards. He's our East Coast specialist, as we like to joke. And he is here representing his Capitals, which he is the biggest fan of, as we know, as always. And I am your host, Nick Cody. I am here, ready, excited to talk with you. But first thing we got to do is have our face-off. So, Jameson, tell the people at home what the face-off is, and then tell us what you're drinking.
I mean, I'm going with the old tried and true, just whiskey diet, brother.
Fantastic.
I keep consistent at the very least.
Yep. And in my matching glass over here, I've got a little bit of vodka and seltzer already poured out, ready to go. We've already started cracking one open, getting ready for this episode because there's so much to talk about. Obviously, when you take a month off, that happens. And, well, you know, that's what takes us to our penalty box. And usually we go back in our penalty box and we reflect on what we did in a previous episode and made mistakes on or just weren't good on, or maybe we had a prediction that we missed out on. And I think we have a lot just in general we could drink for, just for not giving our audience what they've probably needed, their fix of cracking one open the last month. So for a penalty box, man, I know I'm just drinking for our absence.
Release the Kraken!
Get that out of the way because we got to keep it going. It's going to be a very fun episode.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to talk about for sure.
Yeah, I mean, no kidding. The last time that we were really able to talk to you guys, we were just talking about the first home opener in Climate Pledge Arena. And well, we got our own experience in Climate Pledge Arena, and it's the only game that I've been to still, even though I'm here. And Jameson was able to come out after our vacation and check it out. Jameson, what were your first impressions as we go into our deep dive, which focuses on just the Kraken specifically in our first period? What was your Climate Pledge Arena experience like, and what were the impressions you still take away to this day?
As far as the arena is concerned, I've never been in such a beautiful arena, and that's not even me like pandering at all. It's a fucking beautiful all right, that's one. All right, it's a beautiful venue. It's very fluid, I think, is a good way of explaining it. I was personally worried that maybe the seats wouldn't be so good. No, I don't think there's a bad seat in the house. Genuinely, I'm like, nobody's paying me to say that.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful arena, and if you can get tickets to see a game, I 100% stand behind the idea that you should, because it's genuinely gorgeous. There's no better arena that I've seen personally, and that's a wrap. Realistically, it really knocked my socks off.
Yeah,
genuinely.
And I think what we were in section 110 up. What seemed like, you look on paper, you look in the map, you're like, oh, these are kind of nosebleedish. It doesn't feel like that. Such a fantastic sight line. I really love the 2 doubletrons they have going up there. The screens are really interesting. I can imagine there's a couple seats where you might be on just the wrong angle of one of them and it might not be great, but you still have a great view of the ice. And we went up right up to the glass pretty much for warm-ups and got to watch. It was amazing. Very, very fun time. And obviously Halloween just adds that little bit extra special. You guys all know I put the silly Kraken mask and hat on. on. We had a good time. And, the entire time we had that vacation, we had a good time, which is also why it took us about a month of recovery time plus to get back and be like, yeah, we could do another episode. And some of you may have caught it. We had a in-betweener episode that was up for maybe a day or so, but that's another thing that we'll add to our penalty boxes of the future, because wasn't a great recap. And I think you did a much better job this time explaining how nice it was to be in Climate Pledge Arena for the first time. And I can't wait to do it again someday.
I'm looking forward to it, mate.
Well, on to bigger and better things. It's been an interesting time, and we've thought about multiple points in the season where we should get back on it, because we've had our highs, we've had our lows. It felt like for a while there that the Kraken were finally figuring things out, and then nope. Again, last night we saw the Anaheim Ducks go ahead and beat them, and it was pretty tough. Or a couple nights ago, and I just know that it feels like every time they feel like they're about to make way or break through, even when they're beating teams with the best record in the NHL, they fall behind in a lot of games where they just can't dig themselves out. And it feels like there's been such inconsistency at many spots, but particularly with Gruby. I mean, Gruby's had a tough time when he's been out there the past month and a half. And Jameson, I want to know at least what stuck out for you, just kind of looking at these games as a whole.
The first thing that really stuck out was an interview. I'm not gonna name names, but a player from Montreal was accusing his coach of not using his players correctly.
Yeah.
That seems to me to be applicable as far as Seattle is concerned, and not blaming Axel, whatever. It just seems like the team doesn't have a realistic identity. It's when it works, but when it's off, good Lord help us.
Yeah.
It just feels like there's not a proper level of cohesion on the ice. I mean, you can go one way or the other. I do have a couple of hot takes as far as potential moves, but we'll get into that. Realistically, the situation is that they're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I hate to say it.
Yeah, I mean, sitting at 10-16-3 right now, and with the schedule ahead, I've got half to agree.
It's a genuinely difficult situation for them.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I have the best answers, but there are a couple of moves that I think would probably be advantageous. Maybe next year, if not the year following.
Yeah.
We can get into that a little bit later, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it is gonna be a extremely difficult schedule, especially coming up.
Well, yeah, you said it. Let's get on to the topic. In the present, right now, tomorrow, we'll release this episode hopefully this evening, Friday night. Tomorrow, Saturday, they've got the Oilers and Connor McDavid, and we know that team from the very beginning, like that's a scary team. And coming off a game in Anaheim where we kind of, quite frankly, played like crap. That could be a bad one, or it could be, knowing this team, a rebound game. But it's going to tell us a lot, at least, about how much they can manage through this season, especially with all the just guys missing time due to COVID and injuries. It's been pretty ridiculous all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, COVID in and of itself is killing the league, and I mean, not gonna get into what I feel about COVID in general.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have a team like Calgary who can't even field one line. They have 4 skaters and a goalie. So, getting into the Oilers situation, that's going to be a tough one. I think if Fleury can just shut McDavid down, like just I like all you got to do is like hover him.
No.
I don't get me wrong. It's easier said than done because that dude's the best player in the NHL. No questions asked. Dude's an absolute demon. I think well, okay, maybe it's not even Fleury. That's probably too much to ask of one single person.
Yeah.
To ghost him.
Yeah.
Right. But once you set down like an idea with how McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, if you can figure that out, which again is easier said than done, if you can figure that out, I don't think it's an unwinnable game. I think it's very realistic that, I mean, they haven't, as far as I know, I don't think they've released who's starting in net tomorrow. Right?
I haven't seen it.
I am, I mean, as a Caps guy, and I'm very disappointed in Grubauer. I will say that. I'm not saying it's his fault. I think his defense has failed him very thoroughly, but I also think that Driga has been playing a lot better given the circumstances. It's maybe a hot take. I don't know, but I think looking forward to tomorrow. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they're still struggling for a playoff position.
Yeah, I mean, again, right now, I think just trying to get every single win they can is the big goal. I wonder if they can even think about playoffs at this point, because you saw with that stretch there, and I mentioned it before, you go and you lose to the Avalanche, you beat the Capitals, you beat the Hurricanes, you lose the Lightning. Then you bounce back from that, you beat the Panthers, of course you beat Buffalo. But and then you go and you lose to Detroit. And it's just this up and down and up and down. And it just feels like, as a Kraken fan, and as most Seattle sports fans are used to, it's kind of like, oh man, here we go, another team that's not going to make the playoffs, and is going to have very high highs but very disappointing lows.
Yeah, and in their defense, as far as the Detroit game is concerned, Detroit's making a really good come up with their 2 good rookies and Stevie Eisman in the front office. I wouldn't worry about that loss too much. I would worry about what you're supposed to be winning.
Yeah.
It's tough because, I mean, again, looking forward through the upcoming schedule, Toronto, mathematically you're supposed to lose.
Yeah.
Arizona, you're supposed to take an absolute fucking crap.
Yeah.
All right.
Crap will pass.
Well,
But-
I said fucking, but yeah, and then the Canucks, the day after Christmas, or 2 days after Christmas, rather.
Yeah.
That is one that naturally I'm supposed to be cheering for the Kraken. Naturally.
Yeah.
And I'm also supposed to hate Vancouver.
Yeah.
Because of their history with the Blackhawks. I'm from Chicago, if anybody doesn't know that already. Bruce Boudreau, who was a coach for the Capitals, I think he's 4-0 up there.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, I'm genuinely torn apart because I want to hate Vancouver with every ounce of my absolute being. But it's Bruce Boudreau, so I'm kind of like, maybe it's a tough one. I'm gonna go ahead and say I hope I'm naturally going to be cheering for Seattle, but I won't be entirely sad. I'll be sad if Vancouver wins, but I'll be happy if Bruce Boudreau wins.
I got you.
Is that a realistic way of putting it?
Fair. I mean, again, we know as our East Coast specialist, you aren't intended to root for the Kraken. You are here to give us a more well-rounded insight into the NHL, which we'll get into in our second period. But as we wrap up the first period, individual players that we've really noticed, I think obviously you got to talk about guy leading in goals right now with 12, Eberle. I mean, he's played really, really good. He's been someone we've had to lean on at times. And then with 14 assists, Donskoy, I mean, you kind of called it pretty early on that he could be integral. What do you see, at least from our best players, and who are guys do you think that we need to covet and at least hold on to before we kind of wrap this up and talk about guys you think we could trade?
As far as maybe again, going back to a previous episode where we talked with Andy about how plus minus does not necessarily show up. I think Alex Wenberg is absolutely fantastic. I mean, you already said Yanni Gord. Carson Soucy, naturally. I think Morgan Geekie is arguable.
Yeah.
Jared McCann, I think he looks pretty good. I think it's pretty difficult to justify what, like, maybe and okay, this is gonna break my heart to say this, and that's why I'm stumbling with my words here. I think it's just not there this season.
Yeah.
And moving as far as general consideration is concerned, move Alexiak, move Gio, move Grubauer, maybe Jaden Schwartz. That's a bunch of hot takes.
Yeah. Yeah, that would, I think that would upset a lot of people, especially a lot of people that have paid top dollar to already have those jerseys or big fans of those guys. But that's pretty
It's
radical. But you look at how, uh, especially Grubauer, but you look at how Chris Drieger's playing right now with
yeah.
0.895 save percentage. I mean, that's a guy. I mean, who knows if that's the same. You give him more starts, or if he's, I think he was dealing with an injury there for a bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's wild, but at this point, why not? I mean, you're a new franchise, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And I think a lot of people, yeah, definitely want to move to rush to blame Hackstall for a lot of this team's problems when it's like, I think this is more of something Ron Francis can take care of more than we can coach it up on the ice.
I mean, I don't even blame Hacksaw though.
Yeah.
I know he's going to be the scapegoat at the end of the day. It's not his fault.
Yeah.
He's actually doing incredibly well with what he's given. Problem being that it's just a smorgasbord of kind of unfortunate garbage. And I hate to say it that way, but you watch them play, and that's why I pointed out the conversation with Montreal, where there's just really no identity.
Yeah.
And that's what really hurts watching them. And I mean, okay, what was it? Maybe a week ago, where I just you and I were talking, where I said, I'm just turning the call myself.
Yeah.
I'm just turning the game off.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can turn off maybe a dozen games over the course of this entire season. Probably less than that. It was just so frustrating to watch, where it was just, good Lord, what are you guys doing? And and I mean, it's super easy to say it's Hextall's fault, right?
Yeah.
Super easy.
Yeah.
But I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of identity issues, a lot of guys that just don't fit well together, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's shown up, but the thing is fans are still coming out supporting. I think at least that's one of the important things. And hey man, the one thing is if they do have any kind of losing streaks or anything, the only thing is I'll look on the bright side and say, hey, maybe ticket prices go down. So
that is very true, which could probably lead into the valuation conversation.
But first and foremost, good period. And
release the Kraken.
Yeah, the thing I was just going to say is talking about the team in the evaluation of the franchise as we get into our around the NHL period. It was recently released, the total evaluations for the franchises in the NHL, and you were very impressed with Seattle in particular. Go ahead.
Yeah. Whoa. Okay. So 5 of the top 6 are original 6 teams, which, I mean, you would imagine so, right?
Yep.
The only team that was not was Los Angeles, which, I mean, they won a couple cups. It's a huge market.
Yeah.
I mean, you bought out Gretzky back in what, 93, 92, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for not knowing that specifically, but I mean, Seattle's valued over Pittsburgh. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really surprising.
I mean, they're valued over Calgary, Dallas, Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Back to back cup winners. Tampa Bay. I mean, this is. I mean, this goes back to a prior conversation that we had about Arizona, Phoenix,
Yeah.
and where they would be going.
Mm-hmm.
Why in the world would you go to a small market?
Yeah.
Sorry, but nobody gives a shit about fucking Quebec. I like, hey, listen. If it were up to me, I genuinely love the Quebecois. I'm all for it, but there's no reason. There's no reason to not move to Houston over Quebec.
Mm.
Or I mean, I've seen arguments been made going up to Manitoba. It's just like, what planet are you living on? Like,
in comparison, sports markets, good one that we talked about in that episode where we discussed Arizona was Portland. They're very comparable to Pittsburgh, and they already have the ability to turn Moda Center into an NHL venue. So,
yeah,
I mean, the capacity there would be great because, with the success of the Kraken up here, Portland, there's a lot of fans down there that want their own team instead of having to watch the Root Sports and all that covers the Blazers also be covering the Kraken. And the sports market is it feels like the identities have so much crossover here when it would be so much better to have that included in a rivalry, which then you have Vancouver and a Portland team that would be really, really good rivalries, and the fan bases would absolutely love traveling to those games.
yeah, and I get it. The problem, if anybody's been watching these Canadian teams,
yeah,
Canadian fans are idiotically passionate.
Yeah.
It's not even a funny thing anymore. They are quite literally throwing their jerseys on the ice when they lose a couple games in a row.
Yeah.
So it's not even about the market. It's about the reallocation of who goes where, and then getting what division in where it goes. Basically, it's no, like, sorry, Quebec. I love you to death. I wish you had a team, but you can go ahead and fuck off. It's just not real.
Well, sir, while we're on the subject of people that can go ahead and fuck off, what's the Evander Kane watch looking like so far? While we've got you cursing so far.
Well, I actually have not kept up because he's not worth keeping up on. If that's a proper way of saying so.
Yeah, well, we've had a while. There's been a lot since I know you've kept up at least enough to keep me updated. So your last update to me was, do you remember?
Yeah. Well, his first game, he had a bit of physical altercation. We'll say that. Well, just gonna teeter the line there. That being said, he did have a 4-point game last night. That being said, I will divert to my earlier fucking point. Sorry. I never said he was a bad hockey player. All he needs to do is sit down, shut up, play the game, and that's to me what he's doing. I actually genuinely cannot hate on him for what he's doing as far as progress is concerned.
No.
I've ripped on him for beating his wife, being being very yeah, you know. All right, I'll just say it. You know what? I think he's a piece of shit as a human being, but he's a good hockey player. I'll just go ahead and get it out of the way.
And that's fair. For those of you that haven't heard our previous Evander Kane rants, please go back, check those out. Those are always a doozy. And we might not have one for a while if he does get his shit straightened out. But then again, can't expect it. Can't be sure about it. Can't be sure he doesn't have bets on this very podcast right now against us making the right call here.
That's probably the nicest thing I've ever said about him.
Fair.
I bit my tongue there. Come on. You got to give me a little bit of credit there.
I give it to you, man. You did. That was not one of your usual rants, and you really kept perspective there. And before we get too nice, and let's at least change subjects and get to a player I know you can't wait to talk about, and that's Ovi, man. This guy is tearing it up. One of these legends that can still do it at an old age. And I don't think, as you were saying pre-show, I don't think a lot of people were expecting this kind of a season out of him so far. What do you think, man?
I don't understand anybody that it just genuinely disrespects Ovi. Like naturally he's one of, if not the greatest goal scorers that's existed over the course of your ability to live. It's incomprehensible. That being said, he's also 9th in the league in assists since he's been there.
Yeah.
Is anybody who only focuses on like him getting his clappers from the office, the top side,
yeah, where he loves the lineup,
yeah, and like anybody who simplifies that idea, sorry, you just don't understand hockey.
Yeah,
sorry, like because there are teams that it's almost every team in the league that organizes their power or penalty kill around that.
Yeah.
And it still fails.
Yeah.
You don't get to complain about him being repetitively correct.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You send it to him, and then she's in the slot. Like it's sorry.
Yeah.
You don't get to screw on with that.
Yeah, well, and then that in terms of just his play, while his teammates for the most part have been a kind of cycling through there with injuries and just a mismatch of lineups. I think that's a real testament to just what a special player he is. And I know it wasn't enough to get the win against my Kraken, but you guys put up a valiant effort. And every time Ovi does set up from right there, man, you do just kind of hold your breath as an opposing fan, and you go, especially with the way like our inconsistent play in the net and on defense. I was shocked we won that one.
It I'm not gonna lie, it really caught me off guard that Washington lost.
Yeah.
It was pretty good as far as talking to you is concerned, that that Washington did lose. But yeah, it's been a really difficult set of circumstances with Washington, which, I mean, I'm not gonna go too far and as far as like elaborating.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, when if when it comes down to me, as far as being a Washington homer, if I really have to lose to a team, go Seattle.
Yeah. Fair. That, and without those kind of highlights, the season would feel a lot more kind of depressing, because at least it's had its moments where you see they can play up with teams, but they can also play down. So, man, anything else to wrap up around the NHL before we kind of free for all this third period?
I mean, just to talk about, again, Seattle versus Washington.
Yeah.
Because Washington is one of the best teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even saying it from a homeristic sort of idea. It's just statistically correct. I think that Seattle can beat anybody. And that's why it frustrates me to watch them lose to like middle of the road teams.
Yeah.
That really is, to me, what is very frustrating.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. And but at least that's traditionally our second period is around the NHL. Kind of blurred a little lines there, because today our third period is going to be a bit more of just going on that same tangent, but good second period.
Release the Kraken!
Yep. And I think since we haven't been, obviously putting out episodes for a little bit, we haven't had the usual social media engagement. But one thing we would like to talk about is we are updating our platforms. We are moving everything over to Anchor. That way, SoundCloud, we don't have to pay the hosting fees. And hopefully pretty soon we'll be able to have our videos up there, as well as I know I've been able to do for my other podcast, Once a Duck, which has been really, really awesome. Able to show us the demographics of who's listening to us, what apps are listening to us on. But, it's been a lot of fun. We hope you can continue to share the episodes, comment, especially YouTube. That helps us a lot. Give us a like, subscribe, share with your Kraken friends, or just your NHL friends, or just your drinking buddies in general. And if you want to drink along with the show, make some new rules for us to drink, go ahead. Always suggest those at any time, and we'll hear them out. We'll talk about them on the show in future third periods. But for this third period, I think at least we can just kind of I would like to recap at least a little bit about where we've been for the most part. And man, it was not only awesome to go to Climate Pledge Arena, but we went on a little bit of a vacation for those of you that saw the last episode, where we were in a hotel room right before what was probably the best vacation I've ever had. That was for sure. We went to go see rock and roll band Coheed and Cambria on the SS Neverender cruise. And it kind of just, we kind of just ended up planning it this big long sports week, and we had planned to do an episode at the very end of it, and we were just so exhausted, and just waiting until the time was right to do another episode just seemed right, because again, we have a small but loyal audience, and I think they've been so engaged with Kraken games, and it's been hard to be on a regular basis, at least doing this again. But we're going to be back at it. We're going to do a lot of new things to try and get engagement out there. We want to try and open up a Twitter space. I know that that's been something that I've seen a lot of really awesome fan bases pop up in. And, I would love to do one after tomorrow's game with Edmonton. So, so if you guys are interested, go ahead and make sure you're following at Kraken One Open or me on Twitter at JustFollow61. And we'll try and get everybody in there, answer some questions, and maybe use that possibly as a part of our show sometime. So I know Jameson wants to start up a Discord. I think that would be something really, really great to drive engagement and give us more to talk about in these periods. But one funny story I have to mention from the cruise that is a takeaway that I will always have for the rest of my life, and reminds me of why, Jameson, you are such a great ambassador of the NHL and a good fan and a good hockey fan, is because do you recall the one buddy in the lounge who saw the Tampa Bay game on, and you remember talking hockey with him?
I genuinely do not, but
good, because I had to try and forget it myself and still can't, because you're trying to talk hockey with this guy thinking he knew what was going on, and mid conversation I believe he referred to them as the Tampa Bay Thunder.
Yes. Okay. And that's why I tuned it out.
And it was that moment I realized what a great co-host you were, because I walked away unable to keep and compose myself. But you know what? You bit your tongue, you powered through it, you corrected him nicely, and you let him know about the podcast, man. And that's the kind of energy I want all our fans to exude out there. If you go ahead and share this with your friends, they may have no idea what they're talking about, especially up here in Seattle. I've seen a lot of people that have worn Kraken gear like myself that know very little about hockey, but hey, there's always room to learn. And that's one of the things from the cruise I really enjoyed, is there was a little bit of hockey on. We weren't able to catch games live, but we got to see a couple of replays, and that moment in particular was, I know we made a new fan that day, and that young lad, I hope he's listening right now, and I hope he's figured out that the 2-time Stanley Cup champions are not the Thunder, but you were close, buddy. You were really close.
He tried.
He tried.
And you know what? Hats off to him.
Oh man, yeah, him and Andrew WK were definitely the highlights.
And Taking Back Sunday.
Well,
that's a long joke
for at least what you were able to see of them, mate. But anyways, what a fun trip! And big shout out to just everybody that we wore a little bit of Kraken merchandise and gear down there, and then we got a couple nice shout outs and a couple, well, what the hell is that? And it's fun just to see the different reactions. I didn't end up bringing my jersey because obviously I don't think a hockey jersey is going to be that great in Miami when I'm already sweating constantly, or in the Bahamas. But man, what we did wear was awesome. And I think the one comment we heard from just about everybody that was a hockey fan is just how great the jerseys are. And we still hear that to this day. I think that's been the biggest selling point, even for the marketing team, is still, man, just fantastic. But again, it's a brand that's already recognized nationwide. And for the NHL, that's really, really big. The more of those, the better. And if it makes an impression, it makes an impression. It reminds me when I was a kid, when I believe I was a kid, and the San Jose logo came out. And I just remember kind of thinking like the Sharks were really, really cool or something. It was just like, I thought just because based on just the way you were able to recognize the logo and kind of an edgy new franchise Sharks, that was kind of cool. But it feels like they found a real good niche, and I love seeing all the positive reactions to that. Now, if we could just get more positive reactions to what's going on the ice.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of scary because I mean we've already talked about the ticket prices.
Yeah.
I personally think that they're already inflated.
Yeah.
I don't think that's even a unrealistic way of approaching it.
Hmm. Yeah. It's tough because right now you could save money by going to a lot of away games and including travel costs. It's pretty ridiculous. And yeah, there's not a bad seat in the arena, but yeah, it's an expensive arena, and it's kind of the payoff. That's what they I guess they're gonna have to charge pretty high to make up for the cost of that building and just everything in it. And now that we've been in and seen just kind of how it runs and how crazy it is, but yeah, if the success isn't there, it's going to be a tough resale. And I've already seen days where lots of resale tickets are still at a pretty high price and just not getting sold, which sucks because it's like you have a lot of interested fans that are getting priced out of a lot of sports, not just the NHL, but it's huge, and in some regions it's a lot worse than others. But yeah, Seattle, especially if it is truly a team that doesn't make the playoffs, having this high of prices is pretty absurd, and I can't imagine it lasting that long without some kind of breakthrough and success or major changes.
I mean, to me, the big issue is just going back to Washington,
Mhm.
right? This is just a very quick point.
Mhm.
As far as the league is concerned, 10-day quarantine within the states, but then going over to Canada is 14 days.
Yeah.
So going into tomorrow, guys that played in Chicago can't play. TVR, Trevor Rens, Van Riemsdyk, sorry, and Nick Dowd for the Capitals can't play because technically they like legally they can't do it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I can see being a concerning factor, being like right around the Vancouver area.
Mhm.
That concerns me a lot. Haven't seen that as right now,
Yeah.
but it could be
Yeah.
being specifically in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
I think that's something to keep in mind. It's tough. It's tough. It's something to consider, but also don't want to consider it because
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, that's what, podcasts are here for, us to sit around, speculate. And of course, if we can do it with a drink in hand, it's the way to crack one open. That's the way to get our podcast going, at least.
As the that's a long open.
Yeah, for sure. That was the kind of the epitome of our show. And as we get to the third period, just like a hockey game, you start getting worn down. You got to dig deep. You end up getting out there on your line change and getting gassed real early, but you got to push through. And we're getting right about there, I think. So we head into our sudden death wrap up. Good third period, mate.
Release the Kraken!
Gonna make me take another drink. Oh, good lord.
Well, man, if you weren't dropping so many non-Evander Kane related F-bombs, that it wouldn't be such a problem, would it, huh?
Relatively speaking, I think I was pretty well conserved.
Well, yeah, and in our sudden death wrap up, we like to talk about this episode or what we liked about it, what we want to go back and maybe change, highlight, and call out possibly for our next penalty box. And I'm going to have to review this episode, take that into account, and we'll count the number of F-bombs and we'll see. I want to say it was a little below average, but I don't want to say that as a complimentary thing, sir. I don't know if you were just bringing it as much or maybe you were just being too nice to Evander Kane, something like that. But just, you were on your P's and Q's for the most part. You just let a couple slip by. So not your usual performance though, mate. Usually you're out there, gloves off, ready to mix it up. So, next time, well, I know we've had some time off, a little rusty out there, but next time I hope we see a little more fighting spirit out of you. What's your takeaway from this episode?
All right. You want a hot take on fucking Evander Kane?
I love it.
All right. He doesn't play in the fucking NHL anymore. Fuck that bitch. How about that dumb cunt doesn't fucking play in the NHL anymore and stop beating your fucking wife? Can we figure out the entire stop beating your wife? You deserve to not have a fucking career, you cunt.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there before this becomes one of those episodes we end up pulling tomorrow when you're like, hey, I watched that and might have gone a little too far.
Hey man, you asked me for a bet. I went there.
Well, that's why you got to stick around to the end of the episode, ladies and gentlemen, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. And as you can hear the sweet sounds of Where's Jameson kicking in, you know that we're out of here. We'll see you next time. And
I wrote this song.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that was me.
Keep cracking one open, guys. We'll see you next time, and keep on the lookout for our Twitter Spaces.
Not zdrowie.
Oh, you crazy bastard.